Thanks, Vanessa. We're going to go to the United States now, where the political brinkmanship is certainly being pushed to new levels. On Tuesday next week, the US will go into technical default unless it can reach an agreement between the two sides of politics on raising the debt ceiling. But so far, there has been no agreement as the clock literally ticks down. Today, President Barack Obama used the platform of a nationally televised address to put more pressure on the Republicans.
The only reason this balanced approach isn't on its way to becoming law right now is because a significant number of Republicans in Congress are insisting on a different approach, a cuts-only approach, an approach that doesn't ask the wealthiest Americans or biggest corporations to contribute anything at all. And because nothing is asked of those at the top of the income scale, such an approach would close the deficit only with more severe cuts to programs we all care about. Cuts that place a greater burden on working families. So, the debate right now isn't about whether we need to make tough choices. Democrats and Republicans agree on the amount of deficit reduction we need. The debate is about how it should be done.
Immediately afterwards, Republican House Leader John Boehner offered this reply.
Last week, the House passed such a plan, and with bipartisan support. It's called the Cut, Cap, and Balance Act. It cuts and caps government spending and paves the way for a balanced budget amendment to the Constitution, which we believe is the best way to stop Washington from spending money that it doesn't have. Before we even passed the bill in the House, the President said he would veto it. I want you to know I made a sincere effort to work with the President to identify a path forward that would implement the principles of cut, cap, and balance in a manner that could secure bipartisan support and be signed into law.
Well, to tell us more about this, we're joined by Brendan O'Connor from the US Studies Centre. Brendan O'Connor, thanks for your time. I just want to break this down and get to what we're actually talking about here and whether we're going to actually see a deal. I know the President said today he's confident there will be an agreement. What are the sticking points, and do you think there's going to be an agreement?
Well, I think the White House has said that there's about 50% chance that a deal won't be reached, so the President's confidence is probably could be overstated on that front. This has really become a crisis this week as both sides don't seem to be able to find a middle ground, particularly the political parties. I think Boehner and Obama probably could find some middle ground, but Boehner is flanked to his right by Young Turks in the House of Representatives. Some are aligned to the Tea Party who don't want to compromise on this issue of a debt ceiling. They don't even believe the United States should raise its debt ceiling level, which is, in my mind, totally irresponsible because the United States has foreign debts. On the Democrat side, I think some of the people in the House of Representatives on the Democrat side are saying, well, Obama has compromised far too much. He's actually given over to the Republican argument far too much, but the Republicans don't quite know how to claim victory, and I think that's where it stands at the moment, that the Republicans have probably won the debate, not the public relations debate, which Obama's probably won, but they don't quite know how to finish the deal to some regard.
Yeah, what actually happens if they don't raise that debt ceiling and the US does go into technical default? That's going to, raise the cost of borrowing for a long while to come?
Well, it will create a big problem with the bond markets, I'd say, come next week by Tuesday. It will mean some people in the United States don't get their checks, so Social Security checks, checks to the retirees, veterans checks, all sorts of government payments will be put into chaos. So it's not a very sensible thing at all. It's quite an insane thing because it should be a technical decision, but it looks more likely. I thought last week it was about 5 to 10% likely, where this week I think it's much more significantly likely because they're simply running out of time to come together with any form of legislation which could, deal with these multiple sort of complex issues which are currently on the table.
How much of this is genuinely an argument about the economy in the United States and the need for spending cuts or tax increases, and how much of this is just really a political test?
Well, I think it's a political stunt largely because spending issues, taxation issues should be dealt with in a budgetary process. They should be dealt with, I think, in other times. This isn't probably the right time to deal with it when you're trying to raise your debt ceiling. Traditionally, it's been treated rather like a technical decision under other presidents, but the Republicans have seized the moment that they realise that they can use this debt ceiling issue to get their arguments across about cutting government spending. And they've got Obama in a very difficult place. The president is on the sidelines to some extent here, and the Congress will dictate the terms of the legislation. So Obama is trying to talk sort of big today, trying to involve himself once again in these debates. But largely, unless the Congress can agree on something, the president is sort of going to be sort of flailing in the wind to some extent.
Yeah, Brendan O'Connor from the US Study Centre, thanks for that. It'll be fascinating to see what happens over the next few days. We'll talk again about this, I'm sure.